What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfire. Super exciting week in the MCU world. In just a couple of days, the pre-screeners for Wakanda Forever. But today, Marvel Studios officially drops the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer. Now, we're going to do the normal Easter egg breakdown, point out things that you might have missed, things you might not have known, try to annotate it where we can, and of course, talk about what's going on with Kang in the quantum realm. They also seem to have made some very different creative choices now in reference to the quantum realm. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Bill Murray, Kang, everything that's happening in the Ant-Man and the Wasp teaser trailer. But first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at the channel, and that's all we do. Everything from official Easter egg breakdowns, trailers, and reviews like today's video to the occasional industry insider scoop and everything in between. So if that sort of thing's for you, hit the sub button, leave a comment down below. That will automatically enter you to win our ongoing PS5 giveaway. If you want, stick around to the end of the video. We'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so in keeping with Marvel trailers being set to iconic songs, this one is set off to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John, which happens to be my favorite Elton John record. I'm definitely going to age myself here, but if you're not familiar with the song, the general gist is a metaphor about a man who wants to seek success, who wants to follow quote-unquote the yellow brick road in the music industry until he's finally signed by a record label and then realizes that maybe being a rock star is not exactly what he thought. He feels very deceived by the process, so Goodbye Yellow Brick Road means he's going back to the farm, to the simple life. He doesn't want to do it anymore. Now, if this is foreboding of what might be coming from Ant-Man and Scott Lang at the end of this film, well, we'll talk about that, and I think there's a really good chance that we'll see Paul Rudd throughout the entirety of the Multiverse saga. This won't be the end of his story. But there is definitely a parallel to what he's explaining at the beginning of the trailer. How did someone like me, an ex-felon, an ex-con, become an Avenger? Life is so good. How did this all happen? Set off by the joke that the guy behind the counter refers to him as Spider-Man. That's a callback to Avengers Endgame when the kids who wanted to take a picture with Hulk didn't even know who Ant-Man was, and it's sort of continued throughout the MCU about branding. We heard Kate Bishop call Hawkeye out on that during the TV show about needing a branding overhaul. That's something that Ant-Man has obviously done now with his new podcast that Ms. Marvel talked about and where he is on red carpets during this trailer, but given the song that plays in the background, we know it's not going to stay that way. Now, during the next part of the trailer where Cassie sets off the device that ends up sending the signal to the quantum realm, leading them all to get sucked in, we learn in a little more dialogue during the D23 trailer the reason she became obsessed with the quantum realm in the first place was during the snap and the blip, and that really she's been working with Hank Pym the whole time on the side, really without Scott Lang knowing. Now, Scott Lang shoots Hank Pym a look like he should have told me, but he basically explains it away by saying she had tons of questions, I was just helping her out. And then Cassie takes it one step further and explains if they had had this device, they would have been able to find her dad, and that endears him in the moment, but really goes a long way in explaining her motivations for why in the world she even built this device in the first place. It's in response to her dad getting stuck in the quantum realm during the end of the Infinity Saga. Now, I think there's some things we can logically put together about the overall narrative as a whole, but one thing I want to point out is that obviously Cassie already knows this device works. That's why she's showing it off, although it's never done this, suck them all back in. It's not until Janet Van Dyne speaks that all of a sudden this goes off. So I would just like to point out there's a really good chance that once this device was activated, Kang sat there and monitored this signal, waited for the moment which Janet Van Dyne spoke in proximity, and then captured her. Just a very clever detail to show off one of Kang's strongest powers, which is absolute control over technology, and in this case reaching over from the quantum realm to the 616. Also, I want to point out that when we catch up with Janet Van Dyne at the end of the second Ant-Man film, she is dressed very similar to a lot of the characters we see through the middle part of this trailer. What to me look like rebel characters who are in the face of Kang's dynasty, or empire should I put it. They're doing a Star Wars, yes, they're definitely doing Star Wars. Whatever they stole, whatever Janet Van Dyne stole is what Kang is after. That's what he's looking for Ant-Man's help in stealing back. Her time in the quantum realm was spent amongst these rebels. Rebels, okay. We'll just go with rebels. I mean, look, they're dressed like rebels. I mean, you don't want to call them rebels, you're dressed like rebels. You're literally walking through a foreign planet. There's a cantina. There's aliens. We just play the music. Just play, look, it's Star Wars now. Okay, so in the next part of the trailer, we see a ton of Kang's technology, even the army he's amassing. And one detail I want to point out also ties right back to He Who Remains variant and what we saw at the end of Loki Season 1. Time there was represented as a flat circle, probably the crowning achievement in his technological advancement, understanding how to manipulate and ultimately control time at the end of it. And that circle imagery is replicated in all of his technology here, including the rings that surround the cities. Even look specifically at the spaceships and the spacecraft, they have the circle imagery as well. We see it again surrounding Kang. We see it in the cityscape, then again on the door that Janet Van Dyne is opening, back to back to back circle imagery. Now you'll notice on this door there's some sort of writing, and what I want to point out is that there was an original logo for this film that had a very similar writing on the logo. Now unfortunately, the key as it stands translated from the logo does not look like it's sufficient enough to translate what's on the door. They're not analogous, or maybe it's not even a key at all, but it is a reference to this writing, so it may be of importance. That's why I wanted to point it out. Point being, not only are circles replicating the multiverse and how time is represented, how Kang has controlled it, and probably ends up holding the key for how he's to be defeated. More on that in a separate video, but ultimately they've worked the circle now into all of his technology and imagery on display here in the trailer, and by extension, what's going on in the film. Now I want to talk about what we're seeing here with Kang for just a second, because obviously the D23 footage was different, and there was a scene where he simply pushed his two fingers together and put Scott Lang up against the wall with extreme force. Some people are like, is this telekinesis? What exactly is the extent over his power set? You can assume that he has domain over all technology, at least while we're in the quantum realm. We obviously see an army amassing, and I think with the hint that this film is going to change the fabric of the MCU forever, and that's coming directly from the director Peyton Reed himself, that there may be a crossover here coming from the army we see during this trailer, this version of Kang, the Warrior, the Conqueror, crossing over into the 616 in our reality. But the possibility that he can control all technology and in his realm is what gives him the appearance of being limitless in his power, of being telekinetic when he isn't. It's just how he's able to manipulate all technology. And of course, when you think about Avengers like Ant-Man, who relies on his suit for superpowers, isn't intrinsically a superhero with any powers of his own, it makes it extremely difficult to fight against Kang. Now, easily what I think is the most interesting shot in the trailer is this one right here, where we see a large Ant-Man go running by Ant-Man, and then he strings out. But in the foreground, you see what looks like our Ant-Man, but you scroll to the right here, look, there's multiple Ant-Man. It looks like all these variants of Ant-Man converging at the same time. As I just mentioned, fighting Kang is super difficult across one timeline, let alone across the multiverse, and I can theorize what is happening here as a convergence, multiple variants of Ant-Man all at once, but I think it ties into Schrodinger's cat. You either are or aren't at once. Every decision we make splitting us into infinite versions, into a string theory of multiverse, and you're literally seeing string theory as part of this Ant-Man stringing out. There are all these multiple Ant-Mans all at once, multiplying as they make different decisions in one moment to fight against Kang. This is the sort of stuff that can make your brain hurt unless you really want to delve into it, and there are a lot of really good, very good resources on string theory, multi-dimensions, and we'll talk about that a little at the channel, but the basic gist is that every time you make a decision, there are infinite U's that are created in that decision making, and I think in this scene, this is a representation of that happening right here. Now, one other thing to point out is we see Stature in all her glory, yet another character to set up for the Young Avengers. And if you're wondering how far down we are on the checklist, well, there's a ton now. Kate Bishop, Kid Loki, America Chavez, Patriot all introduced, Speed and Wiccan already introduced, Stature now added to the team, and with a couple more like Hulkling, we're going to be well on our way to having a full Young Avengers squad. So even though not officially announced by Marvel, yet another step in that direction, the team is almost complete. Now, the other character to mention who's shown clearly but only for one frame is obviously Bill Murray. Now, he's been rumored to play a character named Krylar, who in the comics may be up to something deceitful and devious, but it's also been rumored that he'll actually just be an ally in this film. I'm very curious to see how this goes with Bill Murray. I love him as an actor in some of his classic roles, but like a lot of actors who've gotten to this age and looking for paydays, sometimes phone it in, and I'm hoping that's not the case here. One other character they did not show during the trailer, however, that we did see during the cut from D23 was what was going on with Modok. He is shown very clearly. The rumor is he's working in cahoots with Kang in this city, and I think it's 100% safe to say that this city is the city of Chronopolis. Now in the comics, Chronopolis was the time-spanning stronghold of Kang, the city-state that was located on the outskirts of Limbo, the timeless Limbo. Now they're going to say that the quantum realm that they've already established works very differently than time in our reality is going to be, instead of Limbo, this is going to be his Chronopolis city that in the comics is also covered with a transparent dome, as you can clearly see here in the original shot of this city, teased all the way back in the Ant-Man films. And that's why I think very clearly inside the dome, the quantum realm is portrayed as different than we've seen it before. When they've been in the quantum realm, there's been a lot of chromatic aberration that's separating the blue and the red channels. There's been a lot of blurring. It's felt very disjointing every time we've been there. But now during a lot of the shots in this trailer, everything is completely calm. They even have their masks off. That's because I believe they're within the dome of Chronopolis, which is ultimately Kang's stronghold. And here you have it, finally, a Kang Easter egg, clear as day now, confirmed to have been seeded all the way back during the Infinity Saga, and Marvel liked to pretend they didn't know where they were going. It's incredible to see this all play out. But guys, let me know everything I missed down in the comments. I'm sure there are a lot more details that'll come out in the coming days. I am all ears as always. Quickly, let's jump into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. We're still giving away PlayStation 5s. The next milestone is 1 million subscribers, which we are so close to. It's incredible. If you want to be entered to win, all you have to do, hit the sub button, leave a comment down below, because it's truly random. The more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will be announced at the end of videos, the same way we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. And as always, if you liked today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name's Michael Roman. Find me in a couple of places, Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes, under the name AllFires. And while I sincerely appreciate you checking my music out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.